Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about something that's kind of been developing recently, and we got news yesterday that The Mandalorian Season 2 has officially wrapped filming. Now, that does not mean that the series is done, or that the second season is complete in total. It just means that they finished with principal photography and they're moving on to post-production, which would include, putting in any of the CGI, a lot of the editing, stuff like that. And what's odd about that is the fact that The Mandalorian just ended its season, a little over 2 months ago. I think its final episode was December 27th, I want to say. So it would have been, probably about 9 weeks ago. And that is an extremely small window from a production standpoint. And supposedly, I believe they started doing actual on-set filming sometime in early January. So that means the last 2 months have basically been filled up with filming. Now, here's the thing, is that this makes me concerned for this series going forward in terms of a quality standpoint because it's so soon after the first season. Now, here's the thing, is that the creative process is best. I shouldn't say always done this way, but best done this way in the sense that you go through the process and you kind of concentrate on one thing at a time. Again, that's good for most people. Some people can juggle things, and that's great too. But for the most part, it's a creator or group of creators that are concentrating on a singular project and carrying that through the process to fruition, from inception to writing phase to pre-production, production, post-production, and eventual release. Now, what this looks like is that during the post-production for the first season of The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau was also writing the treatment or writing what would be a finished script by the time the series was already airing, that would then become season 2. Now, the thing is that and again, I don't know how long the initial writing phase was on this first season of The Mandalorian. Depending on your screenwriter, you can be anywhere from 2 to 3 months all the way up to years, because you have to have it rewritten or something like that. So, I mean, again, I don't know how long the first one was, the first production of this. I don't know, how many versions of it were scrapped and rewritten and had somebody else come in and this and that. But that takes time. That takes time to make sure that you get those things right, and it feels like it's a little bit more of a rushed process this time. Because again, season 2, if you're wrapping filming now, you might be able to release season 2 by August. That still gives you what would that be, about 5 months of post production, which you can do. It's very much a pain in the ass for CGI. Especially if you have a lot of it, you can spend 6 to 7 months in post production or more if you have a heavily CGI'd movie, because it takes so much time to do those things. But in this scenario, The Mandalorian, at least in season 1, it didn't use all that much CGI. There was some, because they had to have some, but a lot of it was practical. So I don't think it's going to be unless the season 2 has to be more CGI heavy for whatever reason. Then it might make sense why they're ending now, and they're not. I think they stated that they were trying to aim for a similar release date going into this winter, which would be November-ish, for the first episode premiering, and then they do the same thing they did with this past season, where they'll premiere a new episode every week as opposed to releasing it all at once like what Netflix does. So there's a lot going on there in terms of how this thing is spaced out and when certain processes began. Because I think that splitting Jon Favreau's attention in terms of putting out Star Wars products is a terrible idea. And I'm aware that Disney Plus is aching for content, but that is the fault of the people that organized the damn thing. Pushing out a subpar Mandalorian season 2 is not the way to keep people on your platform. You'll get short-term success, but you won't get long-term buy-ins for your service if you keep doing that. And they need to be putting more stuff on there. Like I said, the Marvel stuff I think is supposed to be hitting very soon on Disney Plus. I think Falcon Winter Soldier is supposed to be premiering maybe in a month from now, or maybe this month, on the service. So you're going to have that kind of injection of fans coming in to watch that stuff, the MCU people that have to see everything. So they're going to have that, but the Star Wars people are immediately started drifting away after Mandalorian season 2 was out. And I think a lot of people at the end of the series, they just pirated it because I know for a fact it's available on some websites that I know of that basically just do, you can watch it for free type stuff. So it was out there while it was airing. People were uploading high quality copies of it to other sites. So it's not anything, you're not really helping yourself in a lot of ways by just kind of pump this thing out. And I think they should take their time with stuff like this, especially with Star Wars, because it's a brand that has been abused horribly in the last 3 to 5 years. And they need to kind of build that brand up again. And The Mandalorian season 1 looked like an early first step at doing that. And the thing is, they don't continue that process, if they don't take their time and make stuff that's good, and don't jump the gun, so to speak, then I think they can rebuild some of that goodwill that they lost over time. But from what it seems like with this, it seems like they're just willing to churn this crap out as fast as possible. They want it out. They want it out now. They want it out if they could have it out tomorrow, they would have it out tomorrow. That kind of a thing. And I don't like the idea of rushing Jon Favreau from a creative standpoint. I think he needs to have his time to write and do all of his normal things that he does when he approaches a project. Even though I think that at this point he kind of I think he probably established a storyline going forward between him and Filoni. They know what that storyline's supposed to be, so it's not so much of a paint by numbers kind of go as you flow kind of thing like it was initially. It's kind of just carrying the story forward in a logical progression. So I get that it's a bit of an easier writing process in some respects, but it's one of those things where you can't rush something that was that good. Like, I think I remember when the show was actually announced, it was almost a year and a half before it actually premiered. Something like that. I think the first images we saw were at D23 from 2018. I could be wrong about that, but I think that was when we saw the first promo images, or maybe with the release of maybe at the I was gonna say solo release, but no, that would be way, I think, even before what we're talking about. But again, it's one of those things where I feel like you can't rush it. It's just one of those things you shouldn't rush, and that's my concern here. And I want to see what it looks like before I pass any judgment, but this is just kind of a preemptive thing of maybe you shouldn't be, pushing so hard for the season 2 immediately. I'm aware I love season 1. I want to see season 2. But I just do not want to see it done to the point where it's rushed and it's kind of half-assed and the writing isn't as good as the first season. I don't want a Walking Dead season 2. Because I think that's an example, maybe not of a rushed season 2, but of a season 2 that was not good. And unfortunately, season 3 and 4 of that show kind of picked up, and that's why the show was able to last as long as it has. But that season 2 was very, very boring. There was a payoff to it, but it was very, very boring. And I don't want season 2 of The Mandalorian to just be more of the same thing we saw in season 1. You want to carry the story forward and maybe develop the cast of characters, but don't go totally bonkers and just say, okay, we're going to go with something. What did we do in season 3 of last year? Okay, just do that again. It shouldn't be one of those things. Don't dive into the television tropes like the recap episodes or anything like that. Don't dive into that crap. I hope it doesn't start developing fluff episodes, because I hate fluff episodes. It's one of those things, because that's when it shows that you don't have really great writing to carry a story forward, is when you have so many of those fluff episodes. Again, that was something I kind of had a criticism with Umbrella Academy when I did the review of that, was that there were at least 3 to 4, I think there was probably about 3 episodes in the middle of the series that were almost basically fluff episodes, including one that actually had no standpoint on the final story at all. It just was a character episode that was then immediately erased, which means the characters never went through any of it anyway. It was one of those things, and it was an episode that I think didn't need to be there. That is the equivalent of a fluff episode. There's an episode that doesn't change anything. It doesn't do anything. It's not fun. It's just there. Um, and The Mandalorian season 1 did not do that to me. It didn't give me those fluff episodes, which is why I'm concerned. But it's one of those things. I want to see when a trailer comes out. I assume maybe they'll try and aim it for Comic-Con this year in San Diego, or maybe at the latest, maybe D23 in some point in August. But I think that's when we're going to see the first trailer. But I'm kind of half and half going forward on this, and I'm very cautiously optimistic because again, the same creative people are coming back to do the show as the people that were in season 1, but they seem like they're on a bit of a crunch schedule. So that's my kind of opinion on this because we've gotten the news that the principal filming has wrapped, according to Gina Carano's Twitter account, or actually it might have been Instagram. I can't remember exactly. But I want to know what you think. Do you think they're rushing season 2 and pushing it out? Do you think season 2 is going to be a good companion to season 1 and carry the story forward? And what would you like to see in season 2 of The Mandalorian? Put your thoughts below. Again, I'd like to know what you're thinking. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?